Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. The book I'd like to talk about today is Adrian Tchaikovsky's new release, Shroud. This is a standalone novel which is going to be published on the 27th of February in the UK. The American release is going to be a bit later, I think. The 3rd of June is what Amazon.com tells me. Anyway, many thanks to the publisher, Pan Macmillan, for sending me this advanced review copy. So this is a first contact novel, and it's a particularly atmospheric and engrossing first contact tale, I think, with some truly fascinating exobiology. So the backdrop to the story of this novel is a dystopian vision of the future, dominated by corporate greed, in which humanity seeks to explore and colonize and profiteer across the cosmos. Within this setting, we have a small crew of researchers who have been sent out on a prospecting mission to orbit the moon of a distant exoplanet. And this moon is known as Shroud, and it's inimical to human life but ripe for asset stripping. And it's difficult to imagine a world that is more desolate and hostile than Shroud is. It has no light at all. It's pitch black under the shadow of a nearby gas giant, with high gravity and no oxygen, buzzing with radioactivity. Unfortunately, the research vessel suffers a disastrous accident, forcing our protagonist Juna, who's a research assistant working for the crew, to crash land on the surface of Shroud via an escape pod. Fortunately, she's not totally alone. She has her colleague Mai with her, but they are confined within this small enclosed vehicle. And what follows is a grueling survival tale as these two survivors embark on a long, arduous odyssey across the surface of Shroud, which is a chillingly bleak landscape, as they search for a means to contact their ship with the hope of being rescued. And along the way, they encounter some very strange and exotic life forms, including a bizarre sentient species which they call the Shrouded, that communicate via electromagnetic waves, and they exhibit an advanced level of intelligence that is both remarkable and inscrutable. So there's a lot that impressed me about this book. As I've alluded to, the world building is extremely atmospheric. The narrative is permeated with vivid descriptions of an ecosystem that is thoroughly alien and yet plausible and intriguing. This intricate world building is complemented with a tense and engaging narrative, peppered with sci-fi horror elements, as the two scientists who are trapped within the claustrophobic confines of their pod pursue their desperate quest for survival while gradually trying to come to terms with the eerie and unearthly beings outside. Meanwhile, the Shrouded also begin to understand them. So it's quite a dire and bleak situation, but this dire intensity is tempered with a good dose of humour in the writing and some very tender and compelling character building. I love the character dynamics between Juna and Mai, who are flawed individuals but sympathetic characters, easy to root for. So if you've read more of Adrian Tchaikovsky's sci-fi books before, you might find some echoes of themes found in some of his previous works, like the Children of Time series. Most notably, an intense vision of how life and intelligence could evolve in unique and strange ways, totally different to what we're used to on Earth, and the profound differences in consciousness between human and non-human minds. I think this is something that this author is really good at, describing non-human minds, alien intelligences, artificial intelligences, uplifted animal species, you name it. In the case of Shroud, we get introduced to a form of sentience that is so unlike anything humanity has ever before encountered, it's virtually unfathomable. And this is expertly explored via the narrative structure. We've got an alternating first-person perspective that switches between Juna and the Shrouded themselves. And while the focus is mainly on the human narration most of the time, this dual perspective provides a very imaginative and fascinating take on the first contact trope, I think. So there's a lot going for this book. I will say, though, that while it is a very thought-provoking read, it's also quite a dense read. And this can get in the way of the pacing at times. So that the middle sections of the book in particular are full of detailed descriptions of the moon, its geology, its life forms, its ecosystem. And while this certainly enriches the world building, there are times when it feels kind of bogged down in detail. I don't think this is a book that you can rush through. However, the pace does pick up later on, with a final act that is very satisfying to read and an ending that is nothing short of mind-blowing. So, pacing issues aside, overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I particularly recommend it if you're a fan of first contact stories with mind-bending ideas and highly imaginative world building. Things like Solaris or Ted Chiang's Story of Your Life. Stories which encourage the reader to imagine profoundly alternative visions of intelligent life in the universe. If that's your cup of tea, you will love this novel. I give Shroud 4 stars. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more science fiction content.